As someone who flipped her life upside down between the ages of 33 and 36, I have some experience with the fear of not meeting a specific timeline. I've just spent years training and then thousands of dollars into launching this new business. Fuck, what am I going to do? Do you even believe in the timeline that you are working so hard to meet? And while I have never regretted taking that pause when I feel stuck, it's never been quite as easy as I had hoped to find the answer. Get my first client, start my first program with them, and my worst fear is confirmed. Or is this not working out for me right now because this is a redirect that I so desperately need? And I want you to be so freaking brave, because it is in that bravery you will find the thing that you are looking for. And sometimes our stuckness is as a result of us forcing too hard in the wrong direction for us. That fear of not meeting the timeline is so real and so ridiculous. Hey, wild one. I am over the moon that you've decided to join me today. I honestly can't believe that I get to have these conversations and people are listening to them. I'm just so freaking grateful. This is Too Much, Not Enough, and I am your host, Hannah. Let's get messy and magical together, my friends. It's just you and me again today, my love. So you can snuggle up under covers. Maybe if it's sunny and you haven't been out today, you can go for a little walk or get down to a project or do nothing. Let's have a chat. If you feel stuck or behind or like you should be further along by now, this episode is for you. As someone who flipped her life a little bit upside down between the ages of 33 and 36, I feel like I have some experience with the fear of not meeting a specific timeline. And more importantly, how essential the sacred pause between chapters in life has been for me and maybe for you too. So let's talk about timing, clarity, and trusting the space in between, which doesn't get talked about all that often when we are constantly served up the highlight reel of milestones online and don't get to see much of the behind the scenes in between. We're also going to talk about how to hold yourself with compassion when things feel stagnant or unclear or like you've fallen behind your friends or the timeline that you had hoped for yourself, whatever that means for you. So let's get into it. So to kick things off, what does it really mean to be stuck? And what might be happening beneath the surface when you feel stuck? So I can only speak from personal experience, of course. But one thing I have learned is that when I keep repeating to myself, I don't understand, this doesn't seem to be working, what's going on? I've been trying really hard, but things aren't lining up. Or I am spinning my wheels. I'm like trying so hard to make sense of this, and it is just not making sense, whatever that may be. That tends to be a very clear sign to me that I am getting a little bit stuck. And that can be on a smaller scale, a more, short timeline stuck when it comes to maybe something to do with work. Like I'm trying to push something forward or create something, birth something, and it's not really working. Or it can be on a much larger scale, like I'm trying really hard in this relationship and nothing seems to be working, or I am killing myself at my job. I believe in my heart that everything I'm doing is right, but why do I keep feeling this friction, this tension, this banging up against the wall? I find that it often means that there is some misalignment below the surface. There is something there that needs to be paid attention to. And each time something like that has come up for me, it has come with the nudge that I need to slow down, create space to hear what needs to happen next. And sometimes it's that obvious. Like I'm like, I just know I need to take time off or I need to take a break. And depending on the season in life, that can look like different things. I work for myself, and therefore in some cases that has legitimately looked like, okay, I'm not taking any clients on for the month of May. I need to slow down and just see what comes through. Or when that's not so much a possibility, it's looked like, okay, I'm going to take a break from social media, or I am going to not make any social plans for the next little while so that I can just create space in my everyday to see what needs to come. The thing is when I have taken that space, I have hoped that it would give me, served on a silver platter, the answer I need. And while I have never once regretted taking that pause, taking that space when I feel stuck, it's never been quite as easy as I had hoped to find the answer. It has involved a lot of trusting the process and connecting to the things that bring me joy or that I know feel good and right in the moment, to keep me moving along the path until the clarity arises. But each time I felt stuck, whether it be with work or within my relationships, always find space helps dislodge things, helps things to keep moving. And this intuitively feels really backwards, because if you're feeling stuck, it feels incredibly counterintuitive to slow down even more. You're like, no, I don't have the momentum I need here. Why would I slow down further? That's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get unstuck. And sometimes our stuckness is as a result of us forcing too hard in the wrong direction for us. And so you're probably not actually stuck in the sense that things are moving and happening in your life, but you feel stuck because they are not moving and happening in the direction that feels most aligned with your heart. Even though from the outside, you could possibly be thinking, well, this looks like what it should look like. Why am I not feeling like I'm progressing forward? Or looking at it from a different angle, it could be like, well, this looks like what I should be doing, staying in this relationship so that we can settle down and we can buy a house, get married, have babies, on the timeline that I believe is right for me, but this is not working because maybe this is not the right person to do that with. And then you're forcing, and you're just left with more questions than answers, which is what often leads us to feel stuck. We have more questions than we have answers. We feel like more is going against us than is going for us. I have found over many different experiences in my life that feeling of like more is going against me than for me, and I feel more confused and like I have less clarity than I normally do or have before, that is the signal. That is the beautiful message from the universe. You're stuck here because if you keep going down this path, you may find in 5-10 years that you are so misaligned with what you truly want that life is creating a little bit of resistance to slow you down enough to check in and be like, is this what I really want? Or is this not working out for me right now because this is a redirect that I so desperately need? And so the moments that I have taken space between the chapters in my life have really shaped in a very big way who I've become and where I'm at now in my life. And I'll give you an example. So I launched my business Soma at the end of last year. And I had spent a couple of years building up skills and knowledge behind the scenes in order to make this transition. So for me, I launched last year, but this has been a few years in the making. And some of that was resistance and fear that I wouldn't be able to do it or that I would not succeed as a somatic coach on the path that I really wanted to go on. But finally, I decided, okay, if I don't do it, I'll never know. So I invested in a rebrand, a website, started creating these programs, one-on-one coaching flows, all these things, and feeling like, okay, finally got momentum. I've invested a lot of money into this change, into this relaunch of my business. And all throughout last year, I was getting the ping that I needed to take a month off. It's just this message that kept coming through. Take a month off, take a month off. And so I remember, kind of early in the year, I was like, okay, by May, I don't have anything on my calendar. Some of my projects will be wrapped up, so I'll take May off. And then, of course, get close to May, another project or opportunity comes up. I've taken that on. Okay, May's not going to work. So let's look at June or July. Okay, yeah, July. I can take July off. Great. Another opportunity comes up. I say yes to it. Don't take it off. So I keep pushing off this knowing that I need to take a break. And then I go like sort of full steam ahead into launching Soma Soma at the end of last year. Finally, all of my sort of event production clients are wrapped up, and I've said to them, I won't be moving forward in event production, so I won't be able to come back next year or take on future projects. Thank you so much, but I'm diving into this new thing. So I'm like, okay, put it out in the world. Still with this knowing that I needed to create space. And I found every sort of reason and excuse not to create this space. Put it out into the world, get my first client, start my first program with them. And my worst fear is confirmed. They get a couple of sessions in and they say, you know what? This is not what I thought it would be. I don't think I can continue this container with you. And I'm crushed. I'm like, wow, perfect. That's confirmation. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't hack it as a coach. What am I going to do? And this was weeks of feeling sick to my stomach because I'm like, this is what I want. I know this is what I want. And I know deep down inside that I could be really fucking good at this, but I'm not. And instead of shutting down, which is what I really, really, really wanted to do, because I had hit this roadblock and I was feeling so stuck and what the fuck? I've just spent years learning and training and then thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into launching this new business. Fuck, what am I going to do? And I got this ping to reach out to my coach, Catherine, who I hadn't worked with for a while, reached out to her, reconnected, and we kind of stripped back and we're like, need to create some space here. And, Catherine was like, I know that it feels scary because the finances have dried up and you need to bring money in and you want this to be viable, but we've got to figure out essentially what it is that isn't working. You've got to slow down, take stock, dive into the areas so that this offering, the thing that you want to put out in the world that so deeply in your core is going to be of service to people, is going to be beneficial, and that people have to hear this. Catherine would keep saying, there are women out there who are praying for what you have to offer them. You can't give up now, but you do need to slow down and figure out what it is essentially that isn't working. And so for almost 6 months, I slowed all the way down, cleared away the noise. And this felt so unbelievably counterintuitive, right? Because I was like, I just launched Soma Soma. I'm out here telling people about it, but I don't even know what it is now because I thought I did. And it's not that. And I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm saying to people yeah, Soma Soma. And this is generally what it is. But honestly, I'm kind of figuring it out, which feels like the worst thing you could be doing when you've just launched a business. Here's this new business, but I don't really know exactly what it is. But now looking back, and I won't lie, I'm still a little bit in the trenches with it all, but looking back, that space, the thing that felt counterintuitive, but that I knew and had been getting the ping all year to do was exactly what I needed to do to figure out what I'm truly here to offer from a longevity and sustainability perspective. So that's all to say that getting stuck sucks. Feeling stuck can be really hard, and it can be such an important sign to slow down, take stock of what's going on in your life and what you truly want, reconnecting and finding space for clarity so that as you move forward, you're getting more of what you want, not more of what you don't. And even more so, the chapters, like the space between the chapters in my life, have been such an incredible training ground for my ability to sit in discomfort and my ability to sit with uncertainty and my ability to keep going in spite of all of that. And I've read a few different versions of this quote, but it basically says, the people you look at as successful who have done the things that you wish to do or hope to do are not there because they are smarter than you, have better ideas than you, have more money than you necessarily. They are most likely there because they have more tolerance for discomfort. When I was able to embody that understanding, that the people who had the things I wanted were not more talented than me or better than me. They simply had learned how to build the capacity in their system to hold and tolerate the discomfort that comes from feeling stuck and from slowing down to get unstuck. And once I started learning that feeling uncomfortable was not a signal that this wasn't right for me, but in fact, more likely a signal that I needed to keep going because it was building up resilience in me that I need for like the next chapter, that unlocked so much power and it propelled me so much further along my path. And what's so interesting about all of this is I was having a conversation with someone this weekend who reminded me of that fear of the timeline, not meeting the timeline, being behind on our timeline, this timeline that society has kind of created, but we really place on ourselves, especially as women. You know, if you want a family, if you want to have kids, there's very much a timeline around like career and finding a partner and getting pregnant and all these things that feel very much have to happen by a certain point because biology is a real thing and it is a real factor that you have to take in. And it pulled me back to this older version of myself who felt so viscerally the pressure of that timeline and stayed in relationships for far longer than she should have because of that fear of being single in my almost mid-30s, of maybe not knowing whether I was going to find a partner to then have a family with, of thinking, well, if I do find a partner and then we want to be together for like all that mental math that you do that is like, I don't know if anyone's seen that episode of Friends where Rachel turns 30 and she's doing the kind of math of like, well, if I meet someone and then we want to like, I want to be dating them for this long and engaged for this long before we then like get married and have a baby and da, da, da. And she's like, holy shit, if I want to have a baby by 34, then that means I need to have met this guy 2 years ago. And it's like, it's so real, these timelines we put on ourselves and this comparison that we do to other people and where they are at on their timeline. But where I'm sitting now and my understanding not only of like the magic way that life unfolds that we just can't see coming, but also the idea that time is a concept and when you connect to the quantum field, time doesn't exist and all this like, you know, more kind of out there stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that fear of not meeting the timeline is so real and so ridiculous. And I say ridiculous with so much love and understanding. If you are listening and thinking, fuck you, Hannah. It's not ridiculous. The timeline is real and I am behind and don't tell me I'm not. But when you surrender to what life has in store for you rather than trying to like control what is going to happen by a certain point, you realize that like what's meant for you is always going to be there. It's always going to come through for you, regardless of whether you think that you've missed the boat or you've fucked up the timeline or you're behind and everyone else is doing X and you're doing Y and what's wrong with you. It's an illusion. The timeline is an illusion because there are people who live entire lives in their 20s and then realize that's not what they wanted at all, start over again and build entirely new lives in their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s. And when you are at that point, you look back and realize the illusion of timeline. It's a bullshit concept, because you could literally today decide that instead of being a lawyer, you want to be a painter, and you put your mind to it and grind, and in a few years could be this insanely successful painter. But somehow, because you are 50 or 60 when you make that decision, that is somehow not valid or not real. And it's just like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, if you are feeling stuck or you're feeling behind, those things are real and fair and valid to feel. And I encourage you to inquire why perhaps you're feeling like that. Do you even believe in the timeline that you are working so hard to meet? Or was that timeline conditioned into you? Would you rather meet the love of your life at 40 years old, knowing that it is going to be the most beautiful, enriching relationship, but you will be 40? Or would you rather meet your timeline of meeting someone by 25, getting married by 30, and having a kid by 32, but the relationship isn't quite as fulfilling as you'd always dreamed of, where you're going to stick it out because otherwise you'll be behind your friends? Or do you want to stay in that career that you are dragging yourself to every day? Because I couldn't possibly at 50 years old decide to do the thing that I actually wish I had done when I was 19. I can say from experience, every time I felt stuck and I've dug in to understand why I was feeling that way, and then made the decisions in alignment with getting unstuck, and sometimes having to take a big old pause in between, I have been put on a more accelerated path than I would have if I had kept digging down and forcing and ignoring the signs to make a change. And again, going back to this conversation I had with someone over the weekend, it was really interesting, because while their story is their story and my story is my story, and they are not the same, there were a uncanny number of similarities between them. And it was almost like I was able to speak to a past version of myself. And wow, what would I say to me a few years ago? And what I would say to the version of me who thought she couldn't afford to pause, or more importantly, start over, is don't for 1 millisecond doubt that starting over is not going to put you infinitely closer to your dreams. Like, I can't even imagine the amount I would have missed out on if I would have said to myself at 33 years old, you're too old to end this relationship and go find the love of your life. You should just stay the course and have babies with this man and build the life, because what if you break up with him and you don't find anyone else? Like, those were the things that I was thinking and feeling when I was considering making the decision. I was terrified of not finding someone else, of finding someone else too late and not being able to have babies, of all those things that you fear about making whatever decision it is that you make. And I have so much love for that version of myself. She's so sweet and her fears are so valid. And also, I almost want to laugh, because what has happened for me in the past 3 years is unbelievable. It is beyond my wildest dreams. Like, I made the decisions I made both in love and in work because I had a certain dream of what was out there for me. And life has given me that like tenfold beyond what I thought. And so what I'd say to that old version of me is like, I see you. I know you're scared, and I want you to be so freaking brave, because it is in that bravery that you will find the thing that you are looking for, that you will surpass even your wildest dreams. You can absolutely afford to pause, and you can absolutely afford to restart. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. Is it going to be painful? Yeah, it is going to be pretty fucking painful. Are you going to doubt yourself over and over again? Yeah, the doubt does not disappear. Unfortunately, the doubt will always be there, but you can't afford not to do it. You know. You already know that this is what you need to do. So frickin' leap. Leap and know that you have got yourself. And in the moments where you don't know how to get yourself, you have got community around you who will. And they will carry you forward until you can stand on your own 2 feet again. You can find that stability and one day repay them for it. So feeling stuck and behind can be especially difficult when we are served up a highlight reel of everyone's milestone moments. You might open up Instagram and see that your friend Jess is engaged, or your friend Mary is announcing her pregnancy, or your friend Igor is talking about how successful his business is, and that can feel extra shitty. But know that those are highlights. Those are milestone moments, which are important, but they are moments in time. It is the in-between where I have learned that you get to know yourself the best, where you can find the most sustainable joy and pleasure, and where you can teach yourself what you are made of. And so it might be flippin' awesome that Mary got engaged to the love of her life, but you know what can feel even more awesome than that? When you tune into that thing that is right for you and you ignore the pressure of meeting milestones on a certain timeline, the reward that can come from that actually can bring more of a high, more of a rush than the engagement, than the baby announcement, than the what have you. Those are fleeting moments in time. It's the in-between that is the juice, that is the core of life. It is where we prove to ourselves what we're made of, which can be so exhilarating. And I invite you, when you are in those moments of feeling stagnant or playing the comparison game, if you can, try to meet yourself with compassion. Boy, oh boy, have I had an interesting relationship with self-compassion. But the more I incorporated it into my life, the less I felt the need to prove, mostly to myself, but also to others, that I was on the right track, that I was meeting the right milestones at the right time. Like that stuff just kind of fell away a little bit more once I had the compassion for myself of being like, it totally makes sense that you're disappointed about that, or you're feeling shitty right now that all your friends are buying houses and that is just not in the cards for you right now. There will always be something. Like when you choose the path that you choose, there will always be an alternate path you could have chosen. And if you orient yourself all the time towards comparison and the gap of what you don't have, haven't done, then life is going to show you more of that. That's how, your neural pathways, your brain works. But if you focus on what you have gained, what you have done, and celebrate the things that are not as conventionally celebrated, the more you are going to prove and show to yourself and rewire your neural pathways that you're much further than you thought. You have done way more than you probably think you have. In fact, I encourage you to do this exercise. Sit down and take either the last 6 months, year, or 2 years, whatever feels most connected to you, and write down everything that's happened. And I'm not talking about what you've accomplished or your successes. I am talking write down all the things that happened, the heartbreaks, the grief, the things you accomplished, the things you didn't accomplish, the things you thought you wanted, but actually looking back now, you didn't want them and you are glad you didn't go down that path. Write down the name of the guy who you finally stopped talking to after months of him fucking you around or of her fucking you around, whatever it is, write down that name, because that is part of all the things you have done in the last 6 months, year, 2 years. You will be amazed at how much has happened and how much of that has contributed to who you are now, even though it isn't a typical milestone success. And hopefully that will remind you the beauty in the in-between. So if you are in hustle, busyness right now, you are feeling like you can't slow down, I hope this has given you a little bit of a window into what is waiting for you in the stillness and how you can celebrate the in-between of the chapters of your life. And to the person who is still feeling a little skeptical about what I've said here, of using the feeling of being stuck to uncover what the experience is trying to tell you, or who is still maybe doubting that they need to make the decision that they know they need to make. I am living proof of someone who ignored and avoided making the decisions I needed to make for myself for a long time. And then when I finally started doing it, my life catapulted me forward. And I'm not saying do what I do, but if you need that little nudge, remembering who I am, remembering my power, my strength, and my ability to weather the in-betweens, the not so sexy parts of life, have been the greatest catalyst to my current and future success. And the final thing I'll leave you with is you cannot fuck up what is meant for you. Like, truly, you can't. I used to think that that was absolutely possible. It's not. You can't fuck up what was meant for you. You can make poor decisions and you can take yourself off course, but you can't entirely fuck up what is meant for you. However, you can keep yourself caught in the perspective that you have fucked up what was meant for you and that life is happening to you and not for you. And when you break free from that perspective, whoo boy, it is something else. All right, you little wild one, thank you for coming along this journey with me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.